So we're about to begin what will be an exciting, interesting and compelling evening, listening to some speakers that you'll be able to see here on the screen. I'll be introducing each of our speakers for you. And my name is Neil Cooper, and I work for the Speak Up Challenge. So welcome, and thank you for being here this evening. One thing which I would like to ask you to do is to say hello via the chat. Please let us know, for example, where you're joining us from. That would be lovely to know, just to get a sense of who's here with us this evening. And if you like, you could also share what brings you here. You know, what is your interest in coming along to hear some speakers talking on a wide range of interesting and extraordinary topics, I think, is what you'll discover. So where are you joining us from, and what really brings you here? Maybe it's an interest in public speaking because it's something that you would like to be doing yourself. You know, the fear of public speaking, as it's often said, is the number one fear for people, which is extraordinary, really. In fact, it's a common form of anxiety if you think about it. For some people, that can be just a kind of mild nervousness, but for some people, you know, fear of public speaking is really quite terrifying. So, you know, I really want to acknowledge all of our speakers this evening who are going to share their stories, their insights with you all. And thank you again to you all for being here, because there's little point in us speaking if there's nobody here to listen. Okay, so let me show you the list of speakers that we have for you this evening. We have speaker one. Our first speaker this evening is Gloria Ogunbadujo. So she'll be talking on the subject of loss, letting go, and living abundantly. So we have Anna. I'll be reading all this out to you in a moment, so I'll be reading their introductions. But just take a look for a moment here at our speakers and the intriguing titles. So we'll be hearing about moving from being a victim in life to being a victor, thinking about, well, what is my internal fighting power, looking at vulnerability as the key to authenticity. Domestic violence has no gender. Fire your boss and save the world. Very intriguing topic there. A decision can shift a paradigm, and a doormat enlightened. So that's now. Let me tell you in a moment about our first speaker, who is Gloria Ogunbadujo. So Gloria is speaking on the subjects of loss, letting go, and living abundantly. And Gloria is a mental health professional, activist, and trailblazer with a prolific career in advocacy, journalism, and broadcasting. With over 25 years of experience, Gloria has worked with key organizations such as MIND, Medical Foundation for the Care of Victims of Torture, the Women's Therapy Centre, and Women in Prison. She currently works at Diabetes UK. Passionate about issues affecting women, she has worked tirelessly to bring about awareness and has been influential in legislation passed affecting refugees, asylum seekers, and trafficked women throughout the UK and Europe. She has spoken at conferences worldwide alongside activists such as Andrea Dworkin, Susie Orbach, Maya Angelou, and others in France, Italy, Amsterdam, Uganda, and Beijing. She's an ordained minister, certified transformational spiritual life coach, member of APC. So that is Gloria. So please, let's give a warm welcome to Gloria. You can express your appreciation for our speakers by, well, one system we have is to type A, as many A's as you like in the chat. So applause, 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 applause. That's one way you can show your appreciation. So please do that, because it's really encouraging for all our speakers to know that you're there and that you're enjoying what they're doing. So let's give the floor to Gloria. Gloria.
What would be too much loss or death for one person to deal with or to live with?
Let me stop you, Gloria. Sorry to interrupt, but can you turn your video on? Just make sure your video is on. That's it. Great. So this is Gloria, everyone. Gloria, it's over to you, when you're ready.
What would be too much loss or death for one person to live with? How would it manifest in their lives? How would it show up in their lives? How would it show up in your life? I lost my mother when I was 18 years old. And I don't think I really understood the significance of how young I was until I had children of my own later on in years, in life. The next set of losses took the greatest toll on me. I lost my beloved father 6 months before I got married. I was devastated. I'd always imagined this tall, handsome man walking me down the aisle. I was a bit of a daddy's girl. And to lose him just 6 months before I got married, it was just unimaginable. And over a period of between 10 to 15 years, I lost 2 beloved brothers, a dear sister, adored uncles, aunties. I mean, at this stage, I just was in a state of, I guess, trauma. I was numb. There just wasn't enough space to grieve for any of these people. I pretty much went into survival mode, autopilot. When I think about it now, I just can't really imagine what went through my mind during this period. But that wasn't the end of it. The next loss came, I think, about 6 years ago. And this one wasn't about death, it was to do with health. I was working across London at the prisons, working at the medical foundation. I had a very healthy, successful career. I loved what I did. And I started having some pains in one of my hips, but, I just ignored it. And one day I got out of bed and I fell to the ground. I got up and I fell again. And I thought, oh, my family would just have a field day with this because I'm a bit of a klutz. But it wasn't a joke. And before I knew it, I guess the best way to describe it is my hip exploded and I was on my way to the hospital. And this began 5 years of hospital appointments, operations. I had 4 operations on the same hip. And after the 4th operation, I was told that I had an infection in that hip. And until that infection was cleared, the operations wouldn't, stand. So I spent a year bedridden. I watched the world go by. It was surreal. As I lay in bed and carers coming in, going out, I remember one of them, well, a few of them asked me that every time they came to see me, I always seemed happy. And they couldn't understand how under those circumstances I was able to remain so happy. And I said, well, it's not that I wasn't upset or sad, but as I lay in bed and I watched my children come in and out, tinkering with my jewelry, spraying perfume on their, around their bodies, I said to myself, well, whatever else is going on, I'm grateful that I can see my children. That gives me the greatest joy, whatever else may be happening. Loss comes in a variety of ways, not just through death. And there's loss of relationships, body parts. I I felt a loss of my status because I had to give up all my work, a loss with the relationship I had with my body, with myself. I had to create a new relationship. I had to see myself in a different way. So I guess the question would be, how did I cope with all this loss? Because by any stretch of the imagination, this was a lot of loss. And when I think about it, when I think back, I don't think I really had any formula as such. Like I said, I was pretty much in survival mode. But now that I can think back on reflection, I think there were some things that I probably did. Some of them came to me naturally. And it's this attitude of being in a state of gratitude. I mean, I know also one of the things that I did was after every death, I seemed to have developed an appetite for life. It was like I needed to live for the people who had died. I felt as if they would want me to live. But I did feel as if I was the last man standing, as if death was after me. I mean, everybody that I knew had died. So I did have a bit of survival guilt, but I then also felt they would want me to live. And this appetite for living also, translated into a curiosity for, I guess, what they call the human condition. How do people come back from adversity? How do they survive? What is in their spirit that enables them to live? And the curiosity led me into a lifelong training of, I guess, inquiry into human behavior. I started off as a journalist. I trained to be a therapist, and more recently became an ordained minister, and now a coach. And I think also something else that sticks to my mind was I was determined that I would give my children a really good foundation, because I know that foundation is what enabled me to deal with a lot of my loss. I had a really strong sense of who I was, and I guess I'd call it a reservoir of love. I'd internalized a lot of love, which my family had given me, and I could always tap into that love. So I was very determined that I was going to give my children the same kind of foundation, because I didn't know what life would present to them. Thinking again about loss and how the different formats it comes through. I mean, this might be something that you can also relate to, having loss, maybe through death or other types of loss. How do you survive it? Again, I think about it, and I know that all the work that I've done in the past up to now has given me so much material, has given me a great sense of an ability to have a deep level of empathy for pain, for what people go through. And I think having that capacity is also something that enables me to feel a sense of great abundance. My cup is always half full, no matter what's going on. And if I start from that position of half full, it can only go higher. I'm never depleted, because when I do feel sad, or I feel pain, or I feel a sense of loss, I go back inside and I reach for those parts that have sustained me to date. I think again, I say there's so much going on out there, that if I'm determined, I can see something that can give me hope. It's up to me, because things are happening to people all the time. I've never subscribed to the why me, why me, why not me? So what do I do with that? What do I do with those feelings? And I think, I've decided, it's a deliberate intent, that living abundantly for me is not about finances. It's about starting from a place of gratitude, always feeling I've been given so much. I'm pretty much at my happiest when I'm in a state of grace, gratitude, and abundance. My intention is that through my work and stories that I tell, to inspire, encourage, and give hope to others. Presently, I'm working with honoring ancestors, working with cultural, spiritual legacies, and transgenerational trauma, because I think I've lived trauma. I've My whole life has had several ups and downs, but mostly I think, because looking back, when I think about it and when I'm talking about it to people, I see people gasp and say, "How can anybody come through all of that?" And I don't see myself in that light. I see myself as somebody who has been given so much, and so it's up to me to make sure that I keep I keep reaching for my higher self. And the fact that I'm in a position now that I can tell my story, I can work with people who are going through the journey, their own journey. I may be at some point be able to offer them something, um, from my life experiences that maybe can help them on their journey. If I can do that, um, I think my life will always be full of abundance. And so, if there's anything that you have heard today that resonates with you, maybe you'd like me to be your coach, let's have a conversation. I think that there are many things, many aspects of my journey that you also might be able to see yourself as having lived somewhat in that light. If that's the case, my details will be shown, I hope. And I, I'd like to end my talk with a poem from that great poet called Rumi. Rumi said, "Grief can be the garden of compassion. If you keep your heart open through everything, your pain can become your greatest ally in your life's search for love and wisdom." I wish you peace, good health, and a life of abundance. Thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you very much, Gloria. It's a really uplifting way to begin the evening with your speech and your story, especially after the year that we've had. You know, it was such a challenging year with so much loss for so many of us around the world. Loss in all the forms that you described, I think, in your speech. So finding a place to stand in the face of all of that, that's what I'm taking away from your speech. Now, I don't actually have your contact details on the slides. Just let me double check. So we'll find another way to share that. Maybe Donna, if you're listening, you can help out with that, because I can't see Gloria's contact details in the slides. So I haven't really told you anything about me, and I don't want to hog the limelight. But as I said, my name is Neil Cooper, and I've worked as a public speaking trainer and coach for many years. It's an area that I've always been interested in, I think, because I see it as a real privilege to work with people, to support them in being able to find their voices. I really do believe that we have, intrinsically, we have the right to speak. We don't always have the confidence to speak. And one of my interests is helping people connect with, that that inner confidence that has them be able to share authentically their stories. And so storytelling is something that we'll be hearing this evening. And I'd just like you to think, as you're listening to this, what are the key qualities of a great public speaker in your view? What are the top 3 things that come to mind that would enable somebody to be, in your opinion, a great speaker? So yeah, please do share your thoughts in the chat if you'd like to. So let me tell you a bit about Anna and Anna's speech. So Anna is a freelance interpreter. She works for the National Health Service here in the UK and the Ministry of Justice and other public services. So she's a teacher and a translator as well, with over 20 years of experience. Anna is also a member of Team Executive Network. She works along with Linda Proctor, helping people all over the world set up multiple sources of income. For many years, she's been into personal development, and Bob Proctor has been her favorite mentor. Anna is also a mother of 2 wonderful adult men. They are her motivation and inspiration in life. She's here today to share with us the story of how her journey started. She believes that mindset is the key to everything that we want to achieve in life. So I'd like to welcome Anna to the floor. So please, Anna, would you come forward now, and video on preferably so we can see you, microphone on so we can hear you.
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everyone. Very warmly welcome. I would like to start to tell you that I'm here to share one of my days in my life. Actually, one of the days which was very important. The day when I consciously decided that from the victim, I wanted to become a victor. That day I went for a walk and I was thinking about my life, how it was looking like, who I was. And I must say that the truth is that after a year of trials, and when finally the sentence has been given and I was officially called a victim of domestic, I really felt like a victim. I was completely broken. I was sad. I was bitter. I felt like a victim. Every day when I woke up, I could see in my head this movie from the past. I could see the faces. I could hear the voices. I could recognize the sound, the smell. And I was living in those emotions from the past. I was living in a fear, in hate, sadness, love, everything mixed together. And the worst thing it was when I realized that every day when I wake up, I will be thinking the same. That every day when I wake up, I will have the same movie in my head. And I will feel exactly the same. And it will be repeating every single day, on and on and on and on. And I realized that I was living in the past. That was the moment when I decided that my life had to change. I knew it was a day that it was or now or never. I wanted to figure out actually what happened to me that I let someone else to be in control of my life, control of my happiness, that I lost it. And when I started looking in the past, when I was a child, and I was thinking a child, a teenager, and I thought I was a completely different person. I was I was very happy. I was always laughing. I was smiling. I was a kid who was dancing, singing, playing piano. I was a bunch of joy. So the question in which I was asking myself, it was, what happened to that person from the past that I became that person now here who was so unhappy, so broken? I knew I had to do something. While I was walking in the street, I was passing a lot of people. I was passing shops. I was thinking, and actually I noticed there was a bookshop. And I must say that I don't remember when I read the book last time. So I popped in the shop, looked around. I thought I could find some smart book. So I went straight to the psychology department. And I looked at the titles and I thought they were too smart for me. I didn't buy any. Next moment I thought, it's not the day today, so I go out. Once I was at the door, I looked back and I spotted one book. It was a green book on the shelf. It was that book. It was that book. I took it in my hand. I looked at the front page and the title was I. On the first page, it was a short dedication to all of those who were born without instructions for life. I knew it was a book for me. I took it. I mean, I bought it. I paid for it. I haven't read for all day. I went home that day. I left the book on the desk and I was busy. I had 2 kids at home. I was busy with everything what I'm supposed to do. I was busy with my duties, commitments, my responsibilities, all the jobs at home for all day, what every parent is doing. Finally, in the evening, when my children were in bed, I sat down and I started reading this book. The first chapter started with the words, if you've got that book just right now in your hands, it means that you are ready for changes in your life. The next thing was a funny drawing of a big man with a big belly, big nose, standing in front of the mirror, looking just straight in his eye and saying, this is I, and this is the first day of the rest of my life. And just under that, it was a first instruction. Now it is your turn. You're going to do it. Well, I took a deep breath. I stood in front of my mirror, looked it straight in my eyes, and I said, this is I. And this is the first day of the rest of my life. That was absolutely amazing, amazing moment. It was the moment when I felt so much power. I felt so wonderful, like I've got something back, like I got back something what I was longing for years and years and years. It was amazing. It was a beautiful, beautiful feeling. That night, I didn't go to bed. I started reading this book. I started reading and writing down. And actually, I started writing down on a little piece of paper quotes, sentences from this book because I wanted to remember everything. Actually, I wanted to remember the whole book. I started writing that and I was sticking everything on the walls everywhere in my house. They were all over, absolutely all over, every single wall, every single room, kitchen, bathroom, everywhere. I wanted to remember everything from that book. But there was one sentence which I remember till today. the sentence which says, "It is only you who is responsible for your own happiness. So what are you going to change?" From that day, for 18 years, I have never let anyone else to be in charge of my life. I have never let anyone to be in control of my happiness. I've got lots of ups and downs. I've done lots of mistakes. But they are my mistakes and they are my lessons. And do you know what? I wouldn't change a thing. Not even one thing, because it wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be that person now who is standing here in front of you, the person who I can call I. And the thing I want to tell you today is, don't let the past to be in control of your life. Don't live in the past emotions. Don't live in predictable. If you want to live in a now, you have to start think and feel who you want to be, what you want to be. You have to start feeling from here, from your heart. And that's what you feel. And you have to think about this, who you want to be. Because we can't wait until everything, all the world, change around us and then we change. It doesn't work this way, not at all. If we want everything around us to change, we have to start these changes from here. We have to start changes from feelings, from this what we've got in our heart, and from this what we've got in our mind. Because our mind shapes our world, shapes our future, shapes everything what we create around ourselves, because we become what we think about. And to finish today, that's what I wanted to share with you. I can say that I've got one quote which is on my wall, and it says, "Joy attracts more joy. Love attracts more love. Gratitude attracts more gratitude. To change your world, all you have to do is change the way you feel inside."
Great, fantastic, Anna. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Wow, that was really, really great. Yeah, I'm lost for words there. No, it was really, really such a lovely speech. Really well done. So yeah, it's been interesting seeing what people are contributing in the chat about what it takes to be a great public speaker in your view. Yes, there's some very interesting things. Some short, some longer. Courage, living experience, sharing with passion. It's one of the shorter ones. Or a longer one, I believe a good speaker is one who empathizes with themselves and their audience, conveys their message with confidence, and asks their audience to take action. So a great speaker does the same thing, but engages their audience and captivates them with their message and their vision. So yeah, it's really great to hear your views on this. Let me see what's higher up in the chat. Somebody who can deliver a clear message, or someone who is there because they've earned the right to speak. They're eager to share, and they share with passion, excitement, and authenticity. Okay, so really, thanks very much for sharing these things, your views on what it takes to be a great public speaker. You know, it's like everything. Well, it's not like everything, because is public speaking, for example, something which a few lucky people are born good at? Or is it an acquired skill? So I guess that's the old nature versus nurture conversation. Maybe you think it's one or the other in particular, or maybe you think it's a combination of the two. But which elements do we have to be born with? And if we're not born with those, does that mean we can't speak? Does that mean we can't develop ourselves as public speakers? Does that mean, for example, that we cannot have presence and make an impact? Because, you know, that's something which many people have believed in the past. You know, how some actors are spotted at a drama school and their teachers take the view, yes, that person has got it, they've got it, but then this other person just hasn't got it. You know, that seems rather sad state of affairs, doesn't it? If we're written off, we haven't got it and we'll never get it. What is it as well? That's an interesting question. What is presence? What is it that gives an individual presence? That's a question which I'd like you to think about and share your thoughts on that. This is a subject that really interests me a lot personally. So we're going to invite our next speaker to come forward. Our next speaker is Nikki Horton. And what I love about this event this evening is the range of speakers that we have and the range of approaches and topics. It's really a great celebration of our uniqueness, really, as speakers. So Nikki's speech is entitled Your Internal Fighting Power. And Nikki Horton has served in the British Army for over 20 years. During her service, she has delivered training to recruits, personnel deploying on operations, and newly promoted lance corporals and sergeants. She has spent a lot of time coaching individuals to find their true potential and internal fighting power. In recognition of her service to the British Army and her roles within training, Nikki was awarded an MSM on this year's Queen's New Year's Honours List. So that's not the sort of person you get to hear from every day of the week. Well, I certainly don't. So I'd like you to welcome Nikki, and let's invite Nikki to take the floor now.
You matter. You're here today, regardless of whatever point you are at in your life, whether to develop yourself, to just interest, but absolutely, you matter. I'm Nikki Horton, and I'm going to talk to you today about how you can find your own internal fighting power. So, imagine I was 16 years old. I was just finishing off high school. I'd done my exams, and I was having my careers interview with my careers advisor to decide what was the next step for me. I wanted to join the army. That's what I wanted to do, 100%. And I sat down with my careers advisor. She asked me what I wanted to do. I explained my thoughts, how I was going to do that, and she laughed at me. So, as I'm sure you can imagine, I was quite disappointed, a little bit upset, because at 16 years old, we all think we know everything. And I thought, actually, I can do better. I will go and join the army, and I will prove you wrong. What I didn't actually realise at the time was that was my internal fighting power kicking in to get me through what the next 6-7 months were going to be quite a tough time for me. So off I went to the Army Careers Office in Nottingham and walked in, all dead brave, thinking I knew everything. 5'7" and weighing about 8.5 stone. And the first person I met was the recruiting sergeant, who was about 6'8" and about 3 foot wide of pure muscle. So as you can imagine, I was a little bit intimidated. But I was like, no, I want to join the army. And I went through the process. And it was quite difficult. And it was hard. There were times where I thought I couldn't do this. But I did get through that process. As we all, in our own lives, have processes to go through to get to the other side of our own personal goals. And you, the audience out there, will have your own personal goals. You might not be quite there yet, but you are getting there. So I got my date for starting basic training, and I was like, brilliant, I'm off to join the army. I'm going to see the world. Everything's going to be amazing. And my best friend that I went to high school with, we decided to have one last get together shortly before I was going to start my basic training. And through events that happened on that day, she unfortunately got hit by a car, by a drunk driver, and she literally died in my arms. And this was 3 days before I was starting basic training, starting a new part of my life. And for a lot of people, and absolutely nobody would judge you for wanting to do that, a lot of people would have quit, would have gone, no, I'm not going to start basic training. I'm going to stay here. I'm just going to stay here. But I knew that she, my very best friend in the whole wide world, who I've been through high school with, had known for 10 years, I knew that if I didn't go through with it, if I didn't follow my dream, she would absolutely kick my backside. So I went through with it. I ticked up for that for the start of my basic training, and I followed it through. Now, the things that have helped me were linking and understanding where my internal fighting power came from. And it's not just from traumatic events or disappointment, because I've achieved a lot in my life. And I'm sure you, ladies and gentlemen out there, have achieved a lot in your life. And it's very, very important to acknowledge what you have achieved. But I link my achievements, my determination, my internal fighting power to my values. As you will have your own values. And values, it's not a physical thing to me. It's not a physical thing. It's not how much money I've got, how many houses I might have, what kind of car I drive, what kind of food I eat, or anything like that. Things that I value, which hopefully to a degree, some of you will share the same values, but if you don't, that doesn't mean you're wrong and I'm right, absolutely not. But I value honesty. I value love, respect for others, the selfless commitment that it takes sometimes to do those things when you're tired, you're upset, but you know that you need to do them because it's not all about you. And the moral courage, absolutely the moral courage to do the right thing, even on a hard day. You guys and ladies out there having that moral courage to go, stop, this isn't right. We can do this the right way. And we learn this from everything that we or you have gone through. Now, I don't know everybody in this audience, absolutely not. And I'm sure you've all got a plethora of life experience that you can use. And some of you may well feel slightly confused about where you can gain your internal fighting power from. But one thing to remember is your internal fighting power. Think about what you value, what is important to you. Because like I said at the very beginning, you matter. Nobody else can have your life except for you. And we only get one. Life is for living. And we can do so many things with all of the experience that we can gain that helps us and guides us. Some lessons are harsher than others, as I found from my experience. To learn your internal fighting power. But the way that I found my internal fighting power was to understand what was important to me, what I valued. Now, like I said, I can't tell you what to value because we are all different. We are all individuals. Only you can do that. But you get to own your fighting power. And a word of advice from me through all my experience is that to write it down. Write down, take that moment after tonight, or even straight after I've finished speaking. Take that moment while it's fresh in your head to write it down, to work it out, to talk it through with yourself, because nobody else can tell you what's important to you, what your values are, where your internal fighting power comes from, because nobody knows you better than you. Now, I could share many more experiences. There's one more I will share, is where I really had to draw on my own personal fighting power. And that was just nearly 2 years ago. I was starting a brand new job. I've been moved, I've been promoted, and I was going into a job that I was really looking forward to. I was like, this is going to be amazing. And my mum at the time, she was terminally ill with cancer. And she was in the hospital. And I wanted to stay with her. I wanted to stay with her. I didn't want to go and start my new job. But she was like that. Nicola, you will go and you will start your job, your new promotion, your new job. You will go and do that. Because she had faith in me. She believed in me when all I wanted to do was stay with her. But dutifully, and it's because it was what she wanted me to do, I went. And it was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. But I did it because that's what she wanted me to do, and I knew deep down inside it was the right thing to do. And I started my new job on my first day. Brilliant, met loads of great people. And then I got the phone call saying, you need to come back. And I went back. And I spent a week with my mum in the hospital until she went. And I spent another week and a half trying to sort everything out, say goodbye to her. But the fact that she understood, because our relationship was good. It hasn't always been that way. How important my job was to me and how passionate I cared about it. And she knew I had that internal fighting power to get through it. She told me to go. But I am glad that I used the internal fighting power to go start my new job. But I'm also glad that after she went, I used my internal fighting power to get through it and to make her, even though she's no longer with me, to be the proudest mum of me that she could ever be. So for all of you lovely people out there, if you're ever doubting yourself, just value what is important to you, not to anybody else. What is important to you inside, and from there you will get your internal fighting power. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Thank you. Well, very moving, very powerful speech is what I'd like to say. Really provoked so many emotions and thoughts in my own mind as I was listening to that, which I think is the essence of storytelling, isn't it? Because when someone shares their story, you know, has the heart, if you like, to share their story authentically, to be a contribution to us, whoever might be listening. Well, you know, it's just such a gift, and it reminds us of things in our own lives, does it not? So as you were speaking, Nikki, you know, I was remembering my mother. I was remembering people in my family, role models that I've had in my family, through what you were saying about, you know, strong values and and just, you know, honoring the source of our life, really, which is what our parents are. So yeah, I think if you think about it, everyone listening to this, what is it exactly about storytelling that, you know, what's the opportunity of that when it comes to public speaking? What does storytelling provide when you are storytelling? Is there a way to do it well? What do you think are some of the key do's and don'ts of storytelling as a public speaker? Yeah, when you were speaking there, Nikki, one of the things that came to my mind was, you know, well, brought me right back to my uncle. And my name's Neil Cooper, and you may not know who I'm going to talk about, but my father's brother, my uncle, was a British boxer. He was actually a European Commonwealth heavyweight champion in the 1960s. And he happened to fight Muhammad Ali twice, once for the world title, which he lost. And he was a tremendous boxer. And that was really the sort of humble origins that I came from. I never thought that I would be remotely interested in public speaking as a kid growing up, because half the people I met at school couldn't even understand me. I had such a strong, what's now called estuary English accent. But my uncle was a real role model for me. He was a boxer who had extremely strong values, as Nikki was talking about. And those values were things like, you know, honesty, modesty, integrity. And in fact, when he passed away, which was approximately 10 years ago, the newspapers that celebrated him, because he was quite an important figure in British life, if you like. He's the only boxer, really, I think, that I'm aware of ever to have been knighted. Did a lot of work for charity over the years and so on. You know, the words that kept coming up again and again and again in the press were modesty, integrity, and humility and things like that. It was quite staggering, really quite staggering. So, you know, that your speech really brought me home to that and the connection between the internal fighting power and our values. You know, yeah, I think those values are a strong fuel for that internal fighting power wherever we choose to direct that in our lives. So I'd like to I just have a quick check-in with the chat here. So what have we got in here? Well, lots of comments coming in, so thank you very much for that. You know, being a great speaker. Well, authenticity is a word that really often comes up, or in fact invariably comes up when we ask people this question. Confidence, of course. Confidence, remember, can be something that we fake a lot, but a real sort of inner confidence and self-belief when we're speaking, you know, that can really take something. I'm sure we can develop it. I think we really can develop it. Confidence, purpose, self-awareness, this equals presence. So yeah, very, very interesting stuff. You know, what makes someone visible on a stage? I remember hearing the great English British actor, Sir Laurence Olivier, speaking about this, and he said that one of the things that makes someone really visible on stage, for example, is emotion. You know, the truthfulness of emotion. And I was really struck by that in your speech, Nikki. So thank you for that. Now let's move on. So I'd like to introduce our next speaker, if I may. Our next speaker is Aisha Aminu. So let me tell you a little bit about Aisha, if I may. So Aisha Aminu is originally from Nigeria in West Africa. She's married with 3 kids, a team leader at work, a certified coach, NLP and timeline practitioner. She's always looking to develop herself through learning, attending events and networking, and she loves to learn new concepts and is always studying new courses and programs to enhance her knowledge and skills. Her experiences through life can be described as having many triumphs and challenges. However, she is a firm believer in her faith and that everything in life happens for a reason. She uses her learning and experiences in life to fuel her passion, which is helping people reconnect with their authentic self and lead a more fulfilling life. Her definition of life, of fulfillment, is having a great deal of self-acceptance. According to Brené Brown, accepting that you are enough allows you to be authentic, vulnerable, and accept your imperfections, or your imperfection. Well, anyway, yeah. So unconditional self-acceptance. Yes, tell me about it. That is a good one. I've been at work on that for a number of years. So Aisha, we're going to give you the floor. So please come forward when you're ready, and let's welcome Aisha.
Authenticity and vulnerability are 2 sides of the same coin. What does that even mean? Not long ago, words like authenticity, vulnerability were never part of my vocabulary at all. To my mind, I had certain roles in life, and I had a predetermined way of living those roles, way that was determined even before I was born. Like my introduction said, I am a mother, a wife, an employee, a professional. These roles, I see them as roles that I cannot fail in. So I do my best to please, perform, perfect everything that I do in these roles. I cannot let people know that I'm failing in any way, shape, or form. Trying to control everything around this made it impossible for me to let people know who I truly am. In fact, I even lost who I am. I cannot be vulnerable. I cannot let people know who I am. I struggled with this for quite a while. Then I stumbled across Dr. Brené Brown's work on the power of vulnerability. She did a lot of work about vulnerability and authenticity, which really caught my attention. See, the word authenticity presupposes a great deal of self-awareness, knowing who you truly are, what you want, not what other people want, which is, in a way, the opposite of what I was doing. Pleasing, perfecting, performing, making sure people see the perfect side of me. So I kept digging, kept learning about this concept. Why do we avoid being vulnerable? Why do we guard ourselves, not connect with people? And my understanding of vulnerability came to the need for love and belonging. We all want to belong to something, somewhere, someone. But the true meaning of belonging really is self-acceptance. Did you know that your degree of belonging will never be greater than your degree of self-acceptance? Accepting that you are enough allows you to be authentic, vulnerable, and imperfect. So what I came to understand about this whole authenticity, vulnerability was self-awareness and self-acceptance. It has nothing to do with what other people do. It's all with you, which is interesting. For some people, this self-awareness and self-acceptance comes very, very easy. They wake up in the morning, they're happy with who they are. Don't ask me how, because I'm still trying to figure that out. For some, it comes as a midlife crisis. For me, it came as a huge wake-up call. Let me take you back to December 2016 on this cold Monday morning. You'll find me and my husband in the doctor's waiting room. The room was so quiet, you could hear the sound of a pin drop. The air was heavy with the smell of disinfectant, if you know the smell of hospital. The papers were all arranged. It was a Monday morning, all clean and sterile. My mind was racing back and forth. I could hear my husband's heart beating fast. Then a man came out. Mr. and Mrs. Aminu, come in. Have a seat. We've got the results. It's stage 3 cancer. And because of the situation, we'll need to start treatment straight away. Have you ever had a news that put you in so much shock? You could see your whole life flash in front of you, but you don't even know what's going on right in front of you there. That was me that morning. I could see my husband and the doctor talking, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. Then I heard, Miss Aminu, do you have a question? The only thing that came out of my mouth that morning was, can I take my son on a holiday? What? You get that news and you ask for a holiday? But see, my son was only 14 when I got this news. And all I could think of is, I had him for 14 years. Have I ever really been present with him? What So we went on a family holiday. We made memories that I will cherish for the rest of my life. As difficult as this journey was for me, I'm super grateful for the fact that I got a second chance, because the way I was living my life before, pleasing, perfecting, performing, really stopped me from being present with the people that really mattered, really stopped me from living and being true to myself. As Brené Brown said, you can either walk inside your story and own it, or stand outside of your story and hustle for your worthiness. There I was, hustling for my worthiness, for things that really didn't matter. So having gone through this journey with my son, I took this second opportunity really, really seriously and embarked on three things. First is my journey of self-discovery. What is really important in life? Why am I here? What is my purpose? Who am I pleasing? I use this journey to learn a lot about myself, about what really matters in life, who is important to me, and what. So my journey of self-discovery took me through to learning. I'm a certified coach now. I work with people, trying to help them understand what really matters in life. And I've got my purpose to help to inspire people to use their voice and own their brilliance with grace and harmony. Number two, solid values. See, my values became my compass, my guiding principle. Not what people think, what they want to see, what they want to hear. No. My religion became my guiding principle. Being clear on my values meant I'm able to create healthy boundaries. I can that was something that I never invested in because I was hiding myself. However, these connections are really important. They are what you need to take you when you're having difficulties. Let me just be clear. Vulnerability really is in full disclosure. I'm just seeing a question. Repeat the code about vulnerability. Right, okay. You can either walk inside your story and own it, or stand outside of your story and hustle for your worthiness. Do we always want to live like that? Hustling for our worthiness all the time? Is that what life is all about? Like I said, going back to my number three, meaningful connection. I now invest in people who I connect with, make meaningful connection with people who matters. I'm a firm believer of does that mind don't matter, and does that matter will not mind. You will find people that will connect with you if you're being true to yourself. So, having gone through this journey of self-discovery, self-acceptance, I've realized life really isn't so much about what people want, what people do, or belonging. As human beings, we definitely will want to belong. We will want to be loved. But to what extent? At what cost? Is that what life is all about? I will urge you to consider this. What is holding you back today from being authentic self, your authentic self, from using your voice and owning your brilliance? And what one thing can you do to move you away from there? I'm pleased to say that my son is now well, and I'm enjoying every moment with him and the rest of my family, and I make sure I make meaningful connection with them, because I don't want to go back to that situation again. And I implore you to live in now and enjoy what you have now. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you very much. Yeah, and thank you for answering that question. If you don't mind, Aisha, maybe you could write that quotation in the chat for everyone who's present, because I think it is such a powerful quotation, and it would be great to have it in writing, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be really great. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so you had a couple of little moments, unfortunately, where your connection went slightly astray or awry, Aisha. But really, for me, and I think judging by the responses in the chat, it did not detract from the beauty of your speech. So you did a fantastic job. It was really lovely, really lovely, very powerful. You know, that self-acceptance thing, that is so great. I think I'm going to share very briefly my own how it resonated with me. So one of the things I also do a lot in life is I'm not an actor. You might have I've talked about acting a couple of times. You may have wondered if I'm an actor, but I'm not. I am actually an opera singer, funnily enough, and I have sung opera for a large part of my life. I've always been passionate about singing, and I've had to work a lot on my instrument, on myself, on my confidence, and so on my technique over the years. In fact, I've spent 40 years really studying voice and how to use my voice effectively. But what really made the biggest difference was not the studying the voice, although that, of course, working with great teachers has really helped me tremendously to achieve the things which I have achieved as an opera singer. But the things that made the biggest difference were the things that happened on the inside. As Aisha was saying, the journey towards self-acceptance. And I had a teacher when I lived in Paris quite a few years ago, who always used to say this thing to me, and she would say, "Neil, I don't know what it is about you, but you hide your light under a bushel." And this expression that she came out with quite frequently used to really annoy me. So I didn't understand what she was talking about. And it took me quite a few years, quite a bit of pain and adversity and challenge I had to go through to come out the other side. And fortunately, through some really powerful coaching and reflection, I was able to at last understand what my teacher had meant all those years. And as that happened, my singing started to work better and better. So I worked on it with a different energy, with a different attitude, and it took me places. It took me all over the world, in fact. And I was extremely fortunate to sing, for example, at the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden in London, at the Metropolitan Opera in New York, and the Paris Opera, and the Berlin Philharmonic. And I consider myself to have been extremely privileged to have had that opportunity. And it's also taught me quite a thing or two about how to deal with nerves and how to how to work on my own presence, my own ability as a performer. So anyway, your story reminded me of that, Aisha. So it's amazing how the stories that we hear kind of trigger, our own memories. So I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who is from Sweden. So our next speaker is Johan Rylander, who has really an extraordinary story. And it's been lovely getting to know Johan. So Johan's title is Domestic Violence Has No Gender. So let me tell you a bit about Johan. Johan is a certified international empowerment coach who has conquered the most profound episode of domestic abuse, which included isolation, coercive, and financial abuse. Tonight, he'll share with us the invisible scars he endured and his journey towards healing through the power of his Nordic ancestry. Okay, so Johan, it's over to you, my friend.
Thank you. 3 years ago, one journey ended, and another one, the most important journey of my life, began. I arrived by train to Stockholm, together with my son, who was 13 years old. We were arriving. It was a warm summer day. The Swedish summer was at its best. Stockholm was full of people cheering. One could feel the happiness, the excitement, Swedish flags, soccer t-shirts. It was the World Cup, after all. Sweden was going to play Mexico that evening, I remember. But this happiness and excitement, it was all over the place. But my son and I felt anything but happy. See, we were on our way to the safe house. Having endured over 20 years of toxic environment, having asked for help for many times and haven't received any help, I was now on my way to the safe house. I had been given a chance to start a new life. I remember sitting by the kitchen table in the flat that would now be our home for some time ahead. Across me by the table was a woman from the safe house, giving me some information about what we could do, what we could not do. But I remember I was listening, yet not listening. My head, my mind was empty, yet full of so many questions at that moment. What would happen now? My son was with me. We didn't bring any clothes. We had to leave very quickly. His schooling, my job, so many questions. Anyway, here I was, starting a new life at the age of 51. We were, so to speak, in unexplored territories. It was a new beginning. It took quite a month, I think it was a month for me to find the little pieces of myself. You see, after over 20 years living in a toxic environment, you become very small as a person. But then step by step, I remember, from being this quiet person sitting in the yard at the safe house with a book trying to read, not speaking to anyone, I started taking step by step back to life. Memories started popping up in my head. And all those invisible scars that I had inside of me that didn't show on the outside, that were inside, they started coming up into my head. But also, I remember something nice, because finally, I could be a father to my son, the father I had always wanted to be. And as we didn't have any cell phones because we were not allowed, it was actually very good because now we could start playing games. We went out playing basketball. We cooked together. We had a few channels on the television, watched documentaries, one about Nelson Mandela, I remember. And since my father has worked in Africa and met Nelson Mandela a couple of times, I could tell my son a little bit about this fascinating man. And I remember my son, he looked at me with such interest and wow. I remember also spontaneous commentaries from him. He commented, "Dad, isn't it nice, so nice and calm?" I remember also how music became an important part of my life again. I could start listening to my music. I had the radio on. My son and I were listening to music. But music has a tendency to open up emotions. My Pandora's box, in which I had put all my emotions, all my bad stuff that I had lived, started coming up. Came with tears, came a lot of emotions. But it was nice, having been emotionally apathic for so long, to start feeling emotions again. My son and I were laughing quite a lot. We started joking with one another. At the safe house, we were also able to paint. I remember when I went there for the first time and this lady asked me, "What do you want to paint? What do you want to do?" That was a simple question, right? But for me, finding an answer, what did I want to do? For over 20 years, what I wanted to do was always not so important. But anyway, started taking step by step, which has led me to a situation now where I feel strong. I'm standing firmly on the ground, looking forward. And something that happened to me 18 months ago, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. And normally this is something negative, right? Something that we look as a problem. But for me, this was the one thing that brought me back to life. Why? Well, because I got an opportunity to start exploring myself. Who am I? What do I like? What I don't like? Try to find this new person, because you don't go back to someone that you were before, right? So during the months in the safe house, my son and I went a couple of times to a Viking museum. Both my son and I have a fascination about the Vikings, my Nordic ancestors. So that started to give me an idea that I myself would start a Viking journey. It would help me to become a much stronger man. So I jumped on a Viking ship in my mind, sailed off to an horizon. Like the Vikings, they went west, didn't know what was awaiting them over there. Same for me, I went out there. I didn't know what was awaiting me. But I started exploring new lands, in this case, exploring myself. And I reached shore finally, with the strength of a powerful Viking king. That's how I feel inside now. I would like to read a small poem by a famous Viking king. You might remember his name, Ragnar Lothbrok. He said, "Don't waste time looking back. You're not going that way." And in my situation, that's exactly what I have up here in my mind. My future is ahead of me. And I have decided to dedicate my future now to raise awareness on a subject that is so hardly spoken about. Domestic violence is something often talked about as men's violence against women, which is awful. This violence is so awful. I remember when we were talking at the Safe House with other survivors, we spoke about what we had been through, and we noticed it was the same. I was a man and they were women, but we had had the same experience. I want you to remember that the person closest to you can be the one who hurts you the most. We must open our eyes. We must make our society open their eyes, because domestic abuse has many faces. We often think about the physical abuse. All kinds of abuse are awful in its own way. Coercive abuse, emotional abuse, doesn't show on the outside. But you have domestic violence behind closed doors, behind a sad face, behind silence. It can be a neighbor of yours. It can be a co-worker. It can even be a family member who has chosen to be quiet about it because he or she didn't want to worry his family or her family. Domestic abuse is an awful thing. And as long as we just see one group of victims, there will be a lot of invisible victims out there. Domestic violence has no gender. It has become a mission of mine to raise this awareness. But also, I'll be working as a Viking coach, helping people like me who have come out of destructive relationships, who don't know where they are, who feel small. I'll be using 9 noble Viking virtues, which step by step helped me become a strong man, a strong Viking king. It should not be something that takes over 20 years to receive help. So I would like you tonight to have this in mind. Open up your eyes, look around yourselves, so we can help all victims. Thank you.
Thank you, Johan. Great. Okay, thank you very much, Johan. Don't waste time looking back. You're not going that way. That is great. I'm gonna write that down, and I think that's very powerful. And what a powerful call to action, and a really, wow, an extraordinary story. So thank you for sharing that with us, Johan. I want to move straight on now to our next speaker, which we're going on a real roller coaster ride here this evening in terms of the subject matter that our speakers are talking about. Our next speaker is Matt Deezy. So this is quite different to what we've heard so far. I would like you to consider. So Matt Deezy is an entrepreneur, a business mentor, and an author who specializes in small businesses which create a positive impact on society and the planet. He studied sustainable business strategy at Harvard University, no less, and has built £2 million businesses from scratch. His book, Fire Your Boss and Save the World, is being published later this year. So please give a warm welcome to Matt.
Thanks, Neil. Everybody. Okay, the dictionary defines business as making money by producing or buying and selling goods and services for profit. In short, they just exist to make money. This is accepted as fact. It's just the way it is. But what if I told you that this is akin to saying that the definition of a spouse is somebody who you share a house with? It's accurate, but it's missing a massive part of the picture. I'm sure I don't need to tell anybody here that humanity has never faced problems on the scale that we do today, and in almost every aspect of our existence. You don't need to look too far for a major culprit kneeling over our half-dead planet, bloodied knife in hand, drooling with bloodlust, driven by greed and preparing to swoop in for the kill, is the way we do business. Without companies making disposable plastic rubbish with the sole purpose of lining the pockets of their shareholders, there would be no disposable plastic in the oceans. Without a company somewhere profiting from the trade of bats or pangolins or whatever unleashed this hellish virus into our lives, there would be no COVID. But there's a flip side. Something which can do this much harm, if done differently, can do an equal amount of good. We stand at a unique point in our history. For the first time in millennia, business is changing. It is adapting. That dictionary definition is going to be void. It's very difficult for us normal folk to change the way that our society travels, or the way that we produce food, or the way that we produce energy. But we can change how we do business, both as business owners and as customers. Now, you may think that by opening a cafe or a yoga studio, or even starting a coaching business, that you can't contribute to the world's most pressing problems. But you can. Businesses can fix gender and racial inequality in society. Now, an example of how messed up this business structure currently is that amongst the Fortune 500 companies in the US, there are more CEOs by the name of Dave than there are women. If you want another fact, in the US, Latino women get paid 59% that which white men get paid. Now, you may think that I'm just solely talking about large businesses or corporations with boards of directors governed by old white male billionaires stuck in their racist and sexist mindsets of the 50s, but I'm not. It happened to me innocently, because I was guilty of simply starting a business with some of my friends, my buddies. So in 2008, myself and my friends started a company running snowboarding holidays. There were 4 of us. We were all about 30 years old. We were all male. We were all white. We were all straight. We were all middle class. Now, of course, we weren't racist or sexist or prejudiced towards anybody. But do you think that we really truly understood the needs of the customers who weren't like us, the kids, the elderly people, the retired people, the women? I mean, do you think when we were faced with a problem, our diverse life experience enabled us to provide a multitude of different solutions? No, because there was no diverse life experience. So, I mean, it isn't rocket science. Incorporate diversity into your business, even if your company is just 2 of you, or if it's just 1 of you and you use external advisors, accountants, lawyers, or people that you discuss your business ideas with. And those differing angles of input will be invaluable, and they will be profitable, and they will contribute to a more equitable society. Likewise, business can fix public health, both mental and physical. In a large recent survey, 85% of people were found to actively dislike their job. Yep, so look around you, look at your 20 closest friends and family, and statistically 17 of them are in the TGIF club. They are wishing their life away. And a consequence of this is people who dislike their work, who are uninspired or not passionate or uncreative in their day-to-day, are much, much more likely to indulge in unhealthy habits when they clock off at the end of the day. Excessive alcohol consumption, junk food and Netflix binges, just to forget about their day. They take out their day-to-day misery on their spouse and their kids, and it makes the family unit miserable. So how do we fix this? Well, it's simple. You see, employees need to be inspired. They need to be driven by a greater purpose that isn't just lining the company owners' pockets with money. So how do you do that? Well, actually here you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Because if you use your business to contribute to humanity's biggest problems, saving the environment or fighting poverty, then you can inspire your employees as well. So this is much easier than you think. Simply align your business with a cause. Any business, any cause, it doesn't matter. Did you know that through organizations such as b1g1.com, you can plant a tree for less than 20 pence? For a similar amount of money, you can provide a day's education for a child in the developing world, or you can vaccinate a street dog. Hundreds of options. Now imagine if you positioned your business like this. For every coffee that we sell, we plant a tree and we fight climate change. For every new social media follower that we receive, or every new sign up to our email newsletter, we provide a day's schooling to a child in the developing world and provide them with hope for the future. For every quote that we give a client, we save a street dog from a terrible disease. Now, you may think that being this kind of altruistic, world-saving company involves a trade-off of some kind, like you'll have to operate as a charity or give away your money. But you won't. The ridiculous irony of the lack of diversity in business is the fact that companies with diverse racial and gender ownership and management make, on average, 15% more profit than those without. 80% of young people recently surveyed stated that they would take a pay cut to work for a company which created social and environmental impact. Now, I'm not saying that you should pay your employees less. The point here is that by your business being driven by a cause and employing the people who are passionate about that same cause, you will have staff who will be more driven, more committed, more productive, more inspired. They will be happier. They will make the company more money. at the end of each day, you turn to your staff and rather than saying, hey, I made 500 quid today, that's a quick way to annoy them, you can say, hey, we planted 50 trees today. The customer has a choice. There is your competitor who offers a product or a service at a good price and at a good standard. And there is you who offers a similar product or service for a similar price at a similar standard. But you are helping to save the world. So who would you pick? Purpose is what will change that customer from someone who just gives you money into a devoted follower. Someone who believes in what you believe in, your cause. They will be your teammate. And a teammate doesn't go shopping elsewhere just because your competitor has a sale on. Your spouse is not just a roommate. They are, or they should be, somebody who provides love, inspiration, kindness, and who makes your life better. In exactly the same way, your business is not just there to make money. Your business should also provide love, inspiration, kindness, and make lives better. And the happy fact is that if you do this, your business can actually make more money. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you. Well, really fresh and very informative. So thank you very much for that, Matt. Great. So yeah, you can speak about anything, anything that inspires you and that you know about. You know, my story to help you. I think, you know, for me, that's one of the secrets of storytelling and public speaking. So that was really, really great to hear. Now, I'm going to invite our next speaker to come forward. This is Lis Hoyt. So Lis, the title of Lis's speech is "A Decision Can Shift a Paradigm." Let me tell you a little bit about Lis, if I may. Lis Hoyt has worked with young people from all walks of life as a youth mentor and a teacher in both mainstream and independent schools, teaching health and social care and psychology. She graduated with a master's in crime and community safety, evidence-based practice in October 2019. She has just completed her first book called Break Free, a transformational journey and paradigm shift out of coercive control, which will be available in June 2021. So very soon, everyone. She's currently a life coach, empowering women and men to break free from coercive, controlling relationships, and has a vision to help 27,000 men and women worldwide to discover the importance of the inner game. So Lis, it's over to you now, my friend.
Hello, can you hear me, Neil?
Yeah, great.
Okay, thank you so much for the introduction. Evening, everyone. If someone was to say to me before October 2019 that I was the creator of my own life, I could make my own choices and decisions and just live the life that I wanted to live, I would have 100% disagreed with what they were saying. In life, I always felt as though I existed, not really much substance to me. I had a job, had friends, but actually, when I got home, I was just basically living a life that I just wasn't happy in. I became the master at hiding how I felt. I always used to ask myself questions. Why do I feel as though I can't make simple choices and decisions about myself and my children? Why is there an issue with buying Christmas presents, wrapping Christmas presents? Why do I always get that sick feeling when I look in the mirror and I see myself? and I hear the comments that were made about my hair, about what nail varnish colour I should wear. And I kind of almost went on a journey in my own head. Why do I feel like this? How can I get rid of this feeling? I wanted to prove that I could make decisions, and I wanted to prove that I was worthy. I was actually worthy of being loved, worthy of giving love. And I thought to myself, how can I do this? And it racked my brain for a long time. And in 2017, in my mind, I thought I had found the reason. I thought, if I can do this, then it will take away all of that anxiety, all of that worry, all of that pain. And so I decided to follow my childhood desire of always wanting to do a master's. I'm not sure where that came from, but that is exactly where I wanted to go. And so I made that decision. And I was excited. And I remember sharing this with my partner. And their response was, if you do a master's, it's going to be the end of this relationship. Now, for me, that was big. I remember hanging up the phone and it hit me. Those feelings came back again that I had felt for almost 18 years. The issue that I had this time was that it wasn't just a simple decision that I could just get rid of, make out that it didn't matter. This was a desire. This decision was born out of a desire, and I just couldn't get rid of it that easily. Those pictures of me standing on stage, even that I had as a young child, standing on the stage, holding a certificate where I would have received a master's, was always there at different times, but always there. And so I decided to hold on to this. And it's like Bob Proctor says, if you can hold it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. And constantly thinking about that, thinking about those teachings, thinking about, if I could just hold on to this, this will save me. This is going to save me. It's going to save my life. So what I decided to do, I just hung on. I had to change my behaviour. I had to change the beliefs that I had about myself within that relationship in order to not just hold on to my desire and my decision, but in order to line up with it as well. And I remember that feeling when I graduated in 2019. I was on stage and I was holding my certificate. And so when I look back at the transformation that's happened within me, I've totally reframed my whole experience, and I've totally reframed my relationship back then. To start with, it came from a place of anger, resentment, and blame. And now I look at it in terms of ownership, accountability, and conscious awareness of my own behaviour. But I wouldn't have been able to do any of that if I hadn't have shifted my paradigm, hadn't have shifted the way that I did things, hadn't made those decisions that felt really, really uncomfortable. And I just stuck with it and kept doing it and kept doing it. So not only has this transformed my life, but what it's allowed me to do is to write my first manuscript in order to help other people in similar situations. And I can now sit here proud and say, I am a life coach that empowers men and women to break free from coercive control in relationships. And I always think about what I live, but in a positive way. I can now sit back and say, I made those changes that I needed to change in order to stop feeling how I was feeling. And it's a great place, it's a wonderful place to be able to have that conscious awareness of the decisions that you've made in your life that doesn't necessarily feel good and feel right, but it's also taught me that what's important is to always be guided by your emotions. When something doesn't feel right, you need to act on it. We are the only people that are responsible for how we feel. The most important relationship that I have learned from this is the one between me and me, my relationship with myself. And because I now have that understanding, I live a very different life. If anything that I've said resonates with you or somebody that you know, I'm offering free 15-minute consultations at the moment. Neil has the details. Because sometimes within these relationships, it's really hard to kind of pinpoint and tell where you're at. You're not quite sure. I spent many years second guessing myself, not believing that my feelings were real and true, dismissing them and putting them under the carpet, because actually it would be a lot easier dealing with it that way. But in the end, it couldn't hide it anymore. And ultimately that desire, and that's with any desire, anything in life that you have, if there's a desire behind it and an expectation, those two things merged together can be really, really powerful. I'm going to leave you with this. If someone was to say to me right now, Lis, you are the creator of your own life. You can make your own decisions and your own choices. I would 100% agree with what they were saying. Thank you.
Thanks, Lis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now let me share this with you. As I'm just acknowledging Lis, there you can see this is Lis Hoyt here. You can see her LinkedIn and Calendly and email and so on. No, but really, thank you, Lis. That was so authentic and really, really powerful. Wow, just so much emotion present as you were speaking. So I really, really acknowledge you for that. So thank you very much. So we are going to, in a moment, I'm going to bring our last speaker of the evening to speak to you. I'm going to invite her to come forward. Her name is Arasha Rosenberger. So, and then she's going to be our last speaker for the evening. So now you want to be thinking potentially, well, have you got any questions for any of our speakers about any of the things that you've heard them talk about this evening? Please, if you do have a question, do share that in the Q&A. Thank you for your participation in the chat and your encouragements and so on. That's been really great, and your contributions. So that's really, really much appreciated. Let me tell you a bit about Arasha, if I may. So Arasha Rosenberger, the title of Arasha's speech is really quite intriguing. A doormat enlightened. So this is a little bit about Arasha. Jai Prem. So Jai means victory and Prem means love. So Arasha is a born healer and a certified international coach in self-mastery, who has gained the ultimate happiness through self-love after a long journey in life, experiencing life lessons, not knowing what the roller coaster life is all about. Well, something which I'm sure many of us can relate to. She is a mother of 2 children and a former fashion entrepreneur with Tushimo Eco Fashion in Munich. She is German, born Sri Lankan, speaking English, German, and Sinhalese. She is currently the founder of Heaven on Earth Solutions. She chooses to offer services of coaching, healing, and her mission is to bring heaven down to earth, help regain lost self through self-mastery, leading towards purpose. To the one who seeks her help, she is all there with an open heart. Here she is with the story of her life. So please welcome Arasha. Arasha, sorry to interrupt you. You're on mute.
Sorry.
Easy mistake to make. So hang on.
Thank you, Neil. When the world says she's a doormat, I say I'm a diamond. When the world says she's a loser, I say I'm a winner. When the world says change yourself, I say I regain myself. You know, in life, there are lessons which will break you into pieces. These lessons will mold you into the best version of yourself. My name is Arasha Jaiprem. I would love to share with you some of my life lessons of my journey. From the moment of my birth, my roller coaster journey began. As a 6-month-old baby, I did not know my father. My father was absent. I was separated from my father. I was a lost child. 16 years later, now I'm in love for the very first time. Remember this teenage love? Destiny brought in the form of family beliefs that this innocent romance was brought into to a stop. I was the obedient daughter, and I was, at that time, the love was forbidden. I was a lost teenager. 6 years later, now I'm working for a big company producing lingeries, working for Victoria's Secret, the lingerie company. I was literally afraid to leave my design table and go to the toilet because in this building, there was a man who would abuse me and harass me. I was so intimidated and afraid to stop this relationship.
Arasha, can I interrupt you 2 seconds? Because we just lost the connection for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And can you just go back to where you said that you were afraid to leave your desk? Because
Mm-hmm.
we missed the punchline.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was so afraid to leave my design table and go to the toilet because in this building, there was a man who will abuse me and harass me during my working hours secretly. I was so intimidated and afraid to stop this relationship. Eventually, this man is now my husband. Injuries and bruises became familiar to me. The words I heard convinced me how useless I was. The outside world, it seemed to the outside world that I was in a beautiful place, but I was in a very dark place. I had no contact with my friends and family whatsoever. I had no help. I was a lost woman. 4 years later, I was now living in Germany. You know, these social beliefs coming from our ancestors continued haunted me. I had to get married to be accepted by the society. Now I was living into the beautiful, perfect picture I always imagined having. I was blessed with 2 beautiful children, and my life is functioning. My life was functioning, but there was something missing. Soon, I became an entrepreneur. The fashion label, Tushimo Eco Fashion, that was my sustainable fashion brand. This fashion brand was functioning. My heart was not in it. This brand was a lost friend. Physically ill, I have gone through many operations, health issues. Nothing was moving ahead. Life stopped. At that moment, my very first romance walked back into my life. It was frightening and scary. I am seeing my mirror of my soul. All my deep wounds came up to the outer surface. It was a near-death experience. I felt as if a volcanic eruption within my body, mind, and soul. Unfortunately, this soul connection fell apart again. I was in a whirlpool of confusion, asking myself, who am I? The suffering of accepting the truth, the fears of existence. My life was falling apart. I was living into the darkest night of my soul. I woke up to my reality. I realized I had to let go expectations, my negative beliefs, my self-sabotage. My life energy was rising into me, and my old self was dying. The truth was standing in front of me. I couldn't live a lie. The biggest fear and the hardest challenge was the separation, this dysfunctional marriage. It was the hardest truth and the biggest no I had to face. The mind versus heart battle is coming to an end. Physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain, and spiritual pain. The lost child is now an awakened soul. The life is to be lived and not merely to function. How was I transformed by these life lessons? I became the best version of myself. Having endured a difficult journey, I got closer to myself. I listened to myself. I trusted myself. I thanked myself. I forgave myself. I realized how crucial I was for myself. I was abusing myself. I regained my lost self back. I got close to myself and I embraced my little child, little Arasha, back again. When you regain your lost self back, the wonders happen, my beautiful friends. The universe will give you the best of everything. I am blessed today. My marriage, the dysfunctional marriage, transformed into a functioning relation, for friendship. It became a friendship. My children, the beautiful two children, they say, Mama, the old mama was lost and the new mama is now shining. My beautiful friends, there will be challenges in life. There will be obstacles. There will be these events will make you stronger. Love yourself enough and let that love spread your love. The Mother Earth is weeping for love. It's hunger for love. The world is hungry for love, my beautifuls. When you accept yourself for who you are, the world will recognize you. When the world recognizes you, dreams are not dreams anymore. It is your life birthright, my beautifuls. Listen to your heart. Before I finish for today, I would love to give you a daily manifestation which I have been following in my journey since I have come into my realization. When you go to sleep tonight, I would love to ask you this question for yourself. Ask yourself, how close am I to myself, my heart? And say this prayer as a manifestation every night and every day when you wake up in the morning. I love myself. I'm sorry. I forgive myself. I thank you. Please repeat this every morning and every night and listen to your heart, my beautifuls. Life is beautiful when you regain your lost self. Thank you.
Thanks, Arasha. Thank you. Wow, really lovely, beautiful, uplifting way to finish the evening with that. So thanks very much. Thank you. Great. Well, we have heard from all of the speakers that were here this evening. So, it's been great to see your comments. If you have any questions for any of our speakers, please don't hesitate to share them. Let me bring up this. Yeah, so what's been a great evening is now coming to an end, and your host this evening has been Neil Cooper. My name is Neil Cooper, and I'm somebody you can work with if you'd like to find out more about the Speak Up Challenge. I think you'll all agree that we've heard some amazing stuff this evening. We've seen some amazing performances, and wow, believe you me, it's not as easy as it looks, everyone. It really isn't. In my opinion, public speaking is to a very large extent an acquired skill. So it's something that we can each improve, we can each develop. We really can. We really can. And that's why I want to really acknowledge all of the people that have spoken this evening for your generosity, for the work and effort that you've put into crafting your speeches, and the incredible heart with which you have shared your stories so authentically, to make a difference in the world, really. So it's really been great. Without further ado, I think I'm gonna wrap up the evening, unless there are any questions. So we've heard many powerful messages. I don't think I'm going to add any more into the mix. Let me just say thank you all for coming. I really have appreciated your presence, your support, your listening for all of the speakers, and your numerous contributions in the conversation in the chat. So thanks for a great evening. Thank you for being here, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Goodbye.